Good morning, everybody. It's good to see all of you. We've got about 18 people here. Um, I don't think that's quite a quorum, but that's only relevant if we have to vote on something. But happy January 14th. This is the first meeting of the year. Can all of you hear me? This is Drew Dutcher. I am the president of Inc.
Yes.
Yes. Great.
Yes. Sloan's Lake Citizens Group can hear you.
What's that?
Sloan's Lake Citizens Group can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Mr. Bryan. I'm going to share my screen right now. And I think what I can do.
Hey, Drew, can I just make a quick, if everybody can put a D by your name if you're a delegate, and then also maybe throw in the chat what neighborhood you're from, that would be great. And then I'll run the chat, Drew, and answer questions or field them to you if that helps.
So I'm sharing my screen right now. We have a pretty full agenda this morning. I'm not really great at this Zoom stuff, as you might notice, but can people see the agenda I have before us? Great. So today we're going to begin with land and equity acknowledgement, and then we will have committee reports at 9:05. And Judy Baxter is going to be speaking about nominations for our elections in March. And then Jane Potts, who has been involved in Inc. for a very long time, is going to talk about the return of the awards dinner. And Keith Meyer is going to talk briefly about our attempt to return to in-person meetings. And then we have a really great discussion this morning led by Joanna Rosa-Saenz. She is our chair of the Education Committee and a delegate at large. Do we have a volunteer to read the land acknowledgement? Is there someone who wants to? Otherwise, I can.
I can read them.
Okay, Judy, do you mind?
No, I think this is a really important thing to do. Land and equity acknowledgement from INC. As residents of Colorado, we stand on the unceded ancestral lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Lakota, and Ute nations and peoples. These lands were also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other indigenous tribes. We recognize Native and Indigenous peoples as the original stewards of this land and our presence among their descendants who still dwell within it. We pay our respects to Indigenous and Native elders, past and present. Our equity acknowledgement. We acknowledge that racial justice, equity, and climate justice are inextricably intertwined, and that poor, vulnerable, and primarily Black, Indigenous, and people of color disproportionately bear the burden of climate change impacts and environmental injustice due to the lingering effects of systemic discriminatory practices. We commit to doing our part to ensure that when taking any action to address climate change and create the regenerative future, we will respect, promote, and consider our respective obligations concerning all aspects of equity and strive to create systems in which everyone can thrive.
Thank you, Judy. Thanks very much. I think we're going to go right now into committee reports, and I think we'll start with Joel and the Transportation Committee. Joel, are you there? And
absolutely.
Good morning.
Yeah, hi everyone. The INC Transportation Committee continues to meet every other month on the second Thursday of the month. So we just met Thursday night, and it was a very packed meeting, both in terms of content and in terms of attendance. We had 45 people in attendance, and we had 5 topics. We started after introductions with an overview from the Denver Streets Partnership of the achievements of that coalition. So it's a coalition of many different organizations involved in transportation and health related topics. And as well as they have staff of their own and are able to push forward a lot of policy topics there. You may recall the Denver Streets Partnership was the lead organizing group for Denver Deserves Sidewalks that INC and many, many other organizations signed on to. So Molly McKinley and Sam McCrory gave an overview of what they achieved in 2022, what they're looking to get involved in 2023, and then, of course, importantly, how we all can be involved in the topics that interest us. Sam McCrory specifically went into something that we'll be getting a little more information about at INC, I believe, next month, which is Viva Streets. It's taking Broadway and Welton Street, pretty big extent, and making it sort of a festival street for several Sundays in the summer. So look for more information on that. Bryan Wilson, who lives in Congress Park, who's on this call today, and you may have seen on 9 News, shoveling out sidewalks and curb ramps on school routes, gave a presentation about why that's so important and why having it done is necessary, and ended with a call for INC to ask neighborhoods to organize with their local schools on ensuring that snow routes are clear for students. Again, sidewalks, but also curb ramps and crossing streets on these critical routes. So I'll be writing a brief newsletter article that hopefully INC will send out. And it's just a call for neighborhoods to organize. And Bryan has also offered to be a key point of contact, keeping track of who's organized in what areas. And our own education chair has offered to be involved in helping make sure people can connect with their schools. The third topic was something that came to us from 2 neighborhood organizations, the West Wash Park Neighborhood Association and the Lincoln Street Community RNO. They've been working very hard to try to slow down and re-examine the I-25 and Broadway interchange rebuild. You may have seen this. They're getting a lot of press on this. They have a petition at West Wash Park Neighborhood Association website. You can find that. And they've got 700 signatures so far asking that project be paused because they don't believe, and they make a compelling case, that the way the project is designed is not even achieving the goals that its own project set out, largely in terms of multimodal access. So when we upload the video from our last meeting, please take a look at that. At the end of that topic, they moved that the INC Transportation Committee recommend that the INC delegation take a position, repeating their position, asking for a pause on the project to re-examine it so it meets the goals that were laid out, as well as trying to avoid demolition of homes with a new ramp. So INC has a lot of process around taking positions. We're not doing anything about it today, but I'll be working with the board on the right process for bringing that forward to a future delegate meeting. The fourth topic was the first of 2 topics about new efforts that DOTI, the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, is doing, both of which are to take what we learned during the pandemic on a temporary basis and try to have better policies and practices going forward based on what we learned. The first is outdoor places. This has to do with, and they had previously spoken to the Zoning and Planning Committee, outdoor patios, whether they're above the curb, like in the sidewalk area, below the curb, like closed streets or cafes that are where otherwise parking might be, or on private property, but outside. So sometimes people will take a portion of their parking lot to do outdoor cafes and this kind of things. They're coming up with new rules and regulations around that with a lot of public engagement. So that was a very good update, and they're going to have some more public engagement soon. And the second is shared streets. As you recall, during the pandemic, we had many segments of streets that were not closed to traffic, but there were barriers put up so that it was sort of for only local traffic and only slow traffic, because there's so many people wanting to get out and walk and we couldn't be all walking next to each other on narrow sidewalks. So these shared streets, these places for people to be in the street, were very interesting. And so they're looking to say, what can we learn from that about where we would do this in the future in the city, both in a commercial context. So like in a commercial area, you may be familiar with Larimer Street has had 2 segments of closed streets up until recently. I think now they just have one, or in a non-commercial context, in a neighborhood context. So there's about to be a 3rd survey from this project sent out, asking all of us to give input on where we think these might be appropriate and why throughout the city. So it's a very packed meeting, and there's follow-up items from it. I'll be editing the YouTube video and giving it to Maggie to upload later today.
Thank you, Joel. How about the Sustainability and Climate Committee? Keith, is that you? Do you have a brief summary? Or
Sure, I can do it.
or is it Jane Potts? Or
I think Jane, you're on too, but I was just trying to pull up a link for this. We are in the process of working on, so Jane's daughter has done an amazing 3-part documentary on water in the West. And it's actually available for free for the next few weeks online, and then it's going to go to a pay-per-view feature. And we are working on organizing an event that would be a viewing of this, possibly at someplace like the Table Public House, at least, in one or maybe 2 parts of the series, and then doing another part down the road as well. So we're working on getting the copyrights figured out for that. And I think Jane just posted a little bit of information in the chat about that as well. And I'll post a link. There's actually, you can view it online for free right now, if you'd like. All 3 parts are going to be available over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And so I'll post links for that in the chat as well.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Keith. Maggie, do we have any report from the Parks Committee? Maggie Price?
No, we don't. However, I did want to announce that memberships are falling due now, and I've been sending out notices to people. So if you're an RNO and you're not certain when your membership falls due, please contact membership@denverinc.org, and we'll give you that information.
That's great. Thank you, Maggie. We will not have a report from zoning and planning. I got a message from Christine O'Connor that she was not able to attend today. And the other co-chair, Ian Tafoya, is very occupied, as I think some of you might imagine. So now we have an education committee. Joanna, Joanna Rosa-Saenz, we're going to introduce you later. Would you like to talk about your education committee now, or should we, is that something Joanna, you would like to talk about at 9:30 or when you start?
Yeah, I could give a little brief overview. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for making it this morning, and happy New Year. January. So a little bit about the education committee. I was excited to jump in because I am a single mom of 3 boys. So education is very big to me. It's something that I deal with daily. The purpose and goal of this education committee really is to utilize what the best resources are, and those are people themselves. So they will tell you what they need, and what Denver Inc. heard loud and clear was that we need to prioritize our kids and starting off the new year right by focusing on their education. So I'm hoping at the end of this meeting that all the parents that are here, the constituents, that you will have answers to your questions, and then hopefully want to join the education committee. I am so excited to work alongside Bryan, who, by the way, if you have not seen, put it in the link, Bryan. It is hilarious. His interview, I mean, anyhow, yeah, shout out Bryan for that. And then also I'm working with Lamone, and Lamone is the chair of our diversity inclusion. So something that also I feel really relates to education. So there's my little blurb. I look forward to in 15 minutes letting you guys know exactly what the education community committee is doing. Thank you. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Joanna. And Lamone, do you want to say something about the DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee? Do you have any report from that?
Yes, good morning and Happy New Year to everybody. The DEI committee met with Justin Cooper in December to just kind of review the consultative work that he's done, so then we can start setting forth the steps that we want in terms of the INC. So I'm going to be sending out a meeting notice to the committee members later on this month so we can start working on recommendations for the organization.
Great. Thank you, Lamone.
You're welcome.
And Judy Baxter, you are a delegate at large. You're on the board, and you wanted to talk about the upcoming March 2023 Inc. board elections. So
Yep.
Judy.
And I'm going to
stop share. How about
stop
that?
share. Okay. Hold on, it's gonna take just a second. I just want to give a shout out to both Joanna and Lamone. They're great examples of people who have stepped up and stepped in this last year and taken on some great responsibility, and the enthusiasm. Joanna is just unbelievable with her enthusiasm and her ability to organize everybody. So you're a role model, Joanna, for what the kind of energy we're seeking to bring to the board. So let me share my screen for a second. Here we go. Can everybody see this? All right. And I don't want to take too long here, but I want to engage you out there, or engage the people you know in coming on to this really important and critical time. This is our current board of directors. As you can see, here we are, and there's some delegates at large who at 2023, in fact, that's Joanna and me, are up for renewing our terms, and Lamone and Adam are continuing until through to 2024 is their current term. We're hoping they, of course, will want to renew, and we have a vacant delegate at large position. So we want to really announce and encourage people to think about the possibilities. So I want you to, if you even want to just inquire, you don't need to be making a commitment. If you want to inquire, if you have some ideas, please reach out to me, and I'm going to put my phone number in the chat, and I'm going to put my email in the chat, and reach out to me directly, as well, or through INC, or through anybody on the board. This is to announce, Drew, you might want to step into this space a little bit, because we will have an opening in the president's position, Drew, and I'm going to just let you.
Sure, Judy.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Hello, everyone. I assumed I was vice president, and I assumed the presidency in September upon the resignation of Loretta Kaler. But I am just filling out a term until 2024. That was the former president's term. However, I am going to be resigning at the March meeting because I have other plans. I'm going to be in the Peace Corps in Cameroon in West Africa for 2 years and 3 months. So I'm resigning from Inc. I assume that the Vice President Keith Meyer will succeed me at that March delegate meeting, and I think that the delegation has to have an affirming vote. There's also, I think, if someone wants to run for president, they could do so at that time. I think that's in the bylaws. And so that's it. I think, but Judy's right. We really are looking for leaders to step up and become part of Inc. and help us decide the future of the city and neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, yeah, thank you, Drew. And we wish you the best. That's very exciting for you. And also want to give a big shout out for the leadership that you've provided here. And for Keith for going from vice president to president. But as Drew just mentioned, if anyone else is interested in the presidency and wants to run for it, now would be the time to make that known. And that would open up, with Key's assumption there, that would open up the vice president position. And you can see the terms here. It would be 2023 to 2025. We have two critical officer positions open, secretary and treasurer. Again, I want to give a shout out to Greg Sorensen, our current treasurer, who's done such a terrific job. And we are hoping for these important positions to provide some support for the efforts that go into these positions. So if anybody is interested in these and wants to just even talk about them, leadership is really important, and this is the glue. This whole group is the glue of INC, and we're trying to really diversify the neighborhoods that we represent. The board needs to reflect the city, the neighborhoods, the diversity of people, and include really lived experience needs to show up on this board. And so I can't encourage you enough to think about it. Great opportunities here. We have that open delegate at large position with a term of 2023 to 2025. I will be stepping up and wanting to renew my position, but others can step into these. These are renewals, as well as we're hoping Joanna, that she, with her incredible commitment and enthusiasm, will want to continue and renew her position. I do want to stress that you must be a delegate from an RNO in good standing as of the March meeting. And we will, and we're going to work like the Dickens to get a slate of nominations put together by the February meeting so that we can really take and at the February meeting, we can take nominations from the floor. So if you're still thinking about it, you can throw your name in the ring at the February meeting. We cannot take nominations from the floor at the annual March meeting when we present the slate for voting. And if I have misstated anything, I'm going to turn to my colleagues from the board or Lou Raiders who know the bylaws backwards and forwards to make sure I've stated it correctly. So there's great leadership opportunities. We are here to support anyone new coming onto the board. Adam Meltzer and I are working on onboarding processes to make it really supportive and engaging environment. If anyone, so I'm gonna cut myself short because we got lots of fun stuff ahead of us. So thank you, everybody. And if you're interested in me reaching out, put it in the chat. Send me a chat message, okay?
Thank you, Judy. Thanks very much. And that's a lot. It's a little confusing. Are there any questions from any delegation members that? Does anyone have any question? If you want to raise your hand or, okay, you all good? Okay, we can always bring it up later. Okay, yeah. I'd like for, oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's Adam. Just one clarifying question. You are stepping down and need to, the vice president will be taking over. There'll be no election this year for president, right? The election will be when the term's over.
Adam, I think according to the bylaws, as what happened when I took over as president, when Loretta Kaler resigned, I assumed the office upon the resignation, but then the delegation, oh, sorry, I was just going to say, my understanding, the delegation affirms that role. So there would be a vote to affirm Keith as president. I think that's the step necessary. Judy, did you have a?
I saw Lou
No.
raising her hand.
Oh, Lou, sorry, Lou, we'd love to.
Yeah, Drew, I did reply to you yesterday and kind of outlined this a little bit. You probably didn't have a chance to take a look at it, but the way it works actually, Adam, the way it works for all other positions on the board, if somebody resigns, including all the officers, the president gets to appoint somebody for that position, and those appointments are in fact approved by the delegation at the next meeting. However, with respect to the president, if the president resigns at the next annual meeting, there is a vote taken. So Drew did it exactly right. When Loretta resigned, he became the immediate president. He stepped up to that position, but that per the bylaws, that would then require, just like Judy said, opening it up to anybody who wants to be president. Adam, if you're, a natural, if you're willing to do that, and you've certainly had some time, I think, to work now with Drew, that would be great, and that would be on the ballot. So I can forward that to you, Judy, as well. But basically, you do have to have a vote for president. That's the one distinguishing officer role.
Right.
Because of its, the big hat that the president wears in the organization.
What I was clarifying was that there aren't outside people cannot run to be president this coming March, is what I was trying to clarify.
No, they can run.
They can.
So you basically go through the 9.10 outline for president. So and that's what Judy said, if people want to step up and run for president, they can do that they can reach out individually. There should be an active nominating committee. The nominating committee is, I think, one of the most important committees of an organization, because it does go tap on the shoulders of people who they think would add value. So that process should be ongoing with plenty of time between now and when they put together the ballot for March.
Thank you both.
Okay, is that clear? I know it's complicated. Any more questions or discussion? Okay, then let's hear from Jane Potts, who has worked hard to bring back the Inc. annual awards dinner. That's something that for many of you, probably especially new people, you haven't been to or haven't seen, but this was an important part of Inc. all along. So Jane, why don't you tell us about your work in trying to bring back the annual awards dinner?
Thank you, Drew. Good morning, everybody. And I too wish everybody a happy new year. I think it's time to do things a little bit back like we did a few years ago, which means we're going to be starting to meet in person for our delegate meetings. And we decided if we are going to be able to do that, we can certainly bring back an awards ceremony. In 2001, we tried an awards ceremony on Zoom, which was nice because the main purpose of this gathering is to acknowledge people in neighborhoods who've done something sort of outstanding or unusual or something above and beyond that has really benefited their neighborhood. And to recognize them, we give them a neighborhood star because they are indeed neighborhood stars. So we're going to bring back that approach to recognize the people who have done something extraordinary during the year of 2022. We are really thrilled that Visit Denver, who has been our sustaining sponsor over the last many, many years, has agreed to be our sustaining sponsor again in 2023. And when we celebrated in 2020, which was the last big awards dinner that we had over 300 people attend. It was a sit-down dinner. We had a silent auction. We had entertainment. And it was in celebration of the 45th anniversary of INC. I know I'm not involved with other organizations that have been around that long, other than the Denver Turn Bryan, but there are very few nonprofits that have been around as long as INC. So we think that this recognition of individuals who've done something and bringing everybody together for a special event again will be a really, really good thing. In order to be a part of the nominating individuals, you do need to be in a neighborhood that is a member of INC currently. So make sure your dues are paid and that you're a member. We're sort of looking at, we haven't determined the location or the date yet, but we're sort of looking at late September. And since all of this is just coming together right now, and many of the people that helped on the committees in the past are no longer interested in participating, we're going to be asking several of you, if you're interested, to get on one of the committees and help us put this event together. It's always great to have new ideas. I think Keith is putting up a form that you can reply to if you would like to help on any of these committees. So look for that form, fill it out. And again, you need to be a member organization. I think that's all of the notes that I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I'm really excited to do this again. I think that this is one of the most significant parts of INC, is bringing everybody together. And for those of you that have not been in attendance, it's represented from neighborhoods all over. It's many members of Denver City Council. It is sometimes the mayor has joined us. We have representatives from all of our sponsors that come. We have representatives from city agencies that we're always talking to. So it's a great gathering. And just yesterday, I was looking through some photos. Thanks to Maggie, she posted some photos on the website the other day. So click on that and just see what that party looked like. It's a really great evening. So it's always been in February. We're going to probably move it to September so we won't have snow during the event. So let me know if you have any questions.
That's great, Jane. Yeah, I was going to ask you when you planned it. So you're shooting for this September.
Yes.
Great. Well, that's something, I think that's great. Thank you, Jane, so much. Any questions or comments about that?
I have a question.
Sure, Lamont.
What are the committees, and who is Jane, are you the event chair?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. And how many committees do you have that need help?
It's on that form that Keith just put up. So there's an event committee, there's an awards committee. I don't see the form in front of me right now. There's a silent auction committee, and a day of committee mainly.
Okay. And then you're going to start meetings when, about July or?
Oh, no, soon.
Committee meetings, how are you going to do that?
Pardon me?
How are you going to run the event committee? Are there?
You know, we're just putting this together right now, Lamone, and I don't have great answers for you at this time. We're just sort of waiting to see who wants to participate. And to see, because first of all, I have to secure the location and the date with Visit Denver, and then we can do a little bit more planning.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thanks.
Lamone, it sounds like you might want to step up on that.
Hey, I like that.
But I know it takes a lot of preparation, many months, but thank you. Okay, Keith, you wanted to talk, Keith, our vice president, wants to talk about the return to in-person meetings. And then we want to get started on our presentation on education. So we're about 5 minutes over time, but so hopefully those presenters can be a little bit patient. Keith, do you want to just briefly talk about why and how we're returning to in-person meetings, maybe the hour?
Sure, and I'll keep this real short. I just want to echo what Jane said about the awards dinner, though, is like Jane's already secured a couple of major sponsors for this event. So we're really excited about the return of this award ceremony. And if anybody is interested and can help out at all, we'd love to talk to you more, and just please sign up on the link that's in there. And this has been a huge discussion over the last several months with the Inc. board. trying to get back to in-person meetings, and especially trying to reach out to different neighborhoods that we don't see represented here all the time. And we're really going to try to make an effort to do that this upcoming year. We're looking for RNOs that are interested in helping to bring an Inc. delegate meeting to your neighborhood. We kind of want to hit all the corners of the city this year. Judy has graciously volunteered. Next month, we're going to be meeting in Montclair. And Adam Metzler has very diligently secured a couple of really cool pieces of technology for our group that we invested in the past few months, called Owls, which are really great for hybrid meetings. So we're going to try to do in-person and online meetings so that we can reach, make sure that we're accessible to folks that aren't able to get out in person, but also be able to be there for folks that want to meet in person. And we're definitely looking for RNOs that can help to sponsor these events throughout the city during the course of the year. We have the first, I think we have February, March, and possibly April set up so far with RNOs. And we're going to be looking for venues and places to do this around the city throughout the year. And I'm going to post my information in the chat. We would love it if you'd like to be interested in sponsoring and hosting an Inc. event in your neighborhood. That would be great. And we'd love to talk to you more about it. That's it. Thanks. And thanks to the entire board for all the work that we've done over the last few months on a lot of these, getting ready for the new year. I'm very excited about all the things that Inc.'s trying to do this year and kind of come back after COVID. And I think it's going to be a pretty exciting year.
Great, thank you, Keith. I just do want to emphasize we'll still have hybrid meetings because some people don't want to get out of their pajamas in the mornings, maybe. And but it was always a feature of Inc. so long as I knew it, maybe 10 plus years before COVID. Going to a different neighborhood every month was so exciting, and we went all over the city, and I saw neighborhoods I probably never would have otherwise seen. So thanks for all of this. So right now I'm going to turn this over to Joanna Rosa-Saenz, our education chair, and we're a little bit late. I appreciate the patience of all of the presenters and guests who have come for this discussion, but let's just turn it over to Joanna. Do you want to once again maybe introduce Joanna and we're going to talk about education today.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. We're definitely going to miss you, but I know that the world needs you, especially Africa. That's where he's leaving everybody. So how exciting for him. But thank you for all you do. So I am so excited. Thank you, Denver Inc., for giving me the opportunity to utilize this platform to really allow voices to be heard, and all voices. And that's something that is very important to me. I had the honor to be on the board with Amber. So shout out to our president, Amber, with Harkness Heights, who's here with us today. She heard I had a conversation and I really wanted to get involved. And so I became the delegate for the RNO and then jumped in a little further. So here we are today, and we are discussing education committee. I have some amazing guests that come in, but I would like to start off with some norms just for everybody. So in this, everyone, I would like us to have candid conversations where multiple voices are heard. I would like for you to please use the chat function to ask questions and make comments, as this will be recorded and I don't want to miss anything. Also, please be present as much as possible so that you can keep in mind what brought you here today. What brought you here today? Why are you up so early on this Saturday morning? Know that, and just moving forward, just know your intention. And please do not use abbreviations or acronyms, as others might not know what they are. Keep in mind that to step up and step back. Thank you, Nicholas, for teaching me that one. If you are an often super talker like myself, just make space to just take a step back. And if you are a super listener, please make an effort to share with the whole group. Also, please know that we are recording this meeting. So for those who could not attend, and also I would like all the attendees to know that a reporter is present with us today. Thank you, Colorado Sun, for your attendance. She might not write a story today, but this meeting may provide story ideas, and she may want to interview some of you in the future. She may quote information cited at this meeting for a future story. So if you are speaking and sharing information that you want to remain private in this meeting, that information, if you would like to say, is off record. So just a recap of that, just being respectful. The guest that we will have here today is, well, you heard a little, Bryan Wilson. He will be speaking to us about safe snow routes to school. 10, which is Transform Education Now. It's a nonprofit. The executive director is named Nicholas Martinez. I've had the honor to work with Nicholas, and he really represents the parents' voices. Also, we have in attendance Denver Public Schools, and Liz Mendez will be speaking. And I saved the best for last because she is going to be speaking soon. A department that I created, well, as a collaborative. Shout out to the Dickey family. I have Lila Dickey. She is a 4th grader from Centennial Elementary. And I am going to open up what kids who can. So it's this little picture back here. I will tell you all just up front, I'm not technology savvy. So if somebody could please assist the guests in making sure that if they are presenting something, that it is there. And at the end, I will show a video. So Kids Who Can was created from this movement that I came up with in 2020, You Can. So CAN is an acronym for Community Action Network. I think it takes a network of community to take action and really make change. So while speaking with Dave and Melissa Dickey, hi, they are from Inspirational Point, R&O. We were just thinking, like, what could we really do to empower children? Well, Kids Who Can is kind, intelligent, diverse students who can. And through this and through the Education Committee, we want to highlight and inspire youth in our community to be leaders that we know they can be. Every month, we will highlight and celebrate amazing young people and work and the work that they are doing to make the world a better place and make a difference. We want to ensure that youth have a voice and a platform to ensure their work and perspective and considered and honored. So I am about to introduce you to our first kind, intelligent, diverse student. Her name is Lila Dickey. And Lila, if you could please unmute yourself and show your face, I would like to start. Let's see. Lila or Melissa or Dave?
Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, can we put her on the screen? Is there a way to do that? So just can everybody, Lila? All right. All right, well, thank you so much for coming. Everybody, this is a true leader. When I tell you true leader, not only does she play football, that's how her team won my son's team, but she is kind. She cares about her community. And she and my son and some other students did something amazing. So I would like to first ask you, Lila, why, well, tell us a little bit about yourself and then how we got involved. So I'm going to pass the mic over to you.
Hi, my name is Lila Dickey. I am 10 years old and I'm a 4th grade student at Centennial Elementary School. I was part of an amazing project called Operation Gabe, where we went down to the Coliseum in downtown Denver and we handed out clothing, food, warmth, and it really made me feel exciting inside to know that I can do these things to help people.
That's great. And so what made you want to get involved?
Just the fact that I can like help people stay warm and hand out food, it makes me feel really happy to do stuff like this.
Yeah. So everyone, just a little context. I'm a single mom, 3 boys, and my middle son, Gabriel, about 2 years ago, this will be our 3rd year, woke up in the middle of the night crying, like sobbing, Mom, you don't care about the homeless. I'm like, what? So I reached out to our community, and the first year we created 50 backpacks. Last year was our 2nd year. And I saw this young leader that you have the privilege to see, and she stepped up and walked those streets with her friend Tierney in Inspirational Point with Melissa. Thank you, Mom. And just went door to door and let them know what we were doing. Again, nobody is making a profit here or anything, but they did this because the love and care that they have for our community. So happens that the day that we selected to pass out was the coldest day that Denver had. And we were the only individuals that were able to go in that Coliseum. Lila, tell me what your experience was when we went downtown first before we went to the Coliseum. Tell me about that experience, and then walking on an Inspirational Point, hitting all your neighbors up.
My experience in downtown was cold, definitely. It was fun to see the joy and smiles of people. Just when we passed out the blankets, the bags, and the food.
Yeah.
I know they got really happy and they're like, thank you.
Yeah.
My experience walking around our neighborhood was exciting. There was a lot of people who donated. We got ramen and blankets and toiletries, and that really helped with everything.
Yeah.
And we got like $10 to help pay for stuff.
Yeah, and that was so awesome because the first guy who helped us was homeless for years, and he was 4 months in his apartment, everybody, and that's who we gave the money to. He needed laundry money, and so somebody had donated. So I just want to tell you, Lila, thank you for showing us that kids who can, and you are a true leader, and you will change the world because you are a mover and shaker. And thank you, and keep up the great work. And we hope that other RNOs, education committees, we will be now taking submissions and every month highlighting somebody. So Lila, you are the first student that we have highlighted through Operation Gabe. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for all the parents that were involved for our community. I do have a slideshow for to share with everyone, and I'm trying to work on the putting it out on technology, but just some of our partners that we had were the ARC. So I'd like to say thank you to the ARC who donated $400 in vouchers, Dr. Brown with the Education Center who donated backpacks, another 2 students, Maddox and Enzo from DCIS. Their mom, Naomi, and Brandon opened up their home, and we put everything together. So I will be showing everyone a video. And Lila, you will be getting a certificate for thanking you for everything that you have done. Thank you for being a leader. And yeah, if there's anything else, if our parents, Dave or Melissa, want to say anything, this is an opportunity to say something. And then if not, then I will move on to the next. Melissa, Dave, would you like to say anything?
We're really proud of her. She did a great job, and it was all her idea.
Yes. Thank you so much. It really was for her to go walk those neighbors. So thank you so much. And yeah, thank you. Right now, I will open it up. Does anybody have any questions or anything to tell Lila?
I'll just volunteer. That's a great story, Lila. It's really great to see young people stepping up like that and caring about other people. I think that's great to see. Thank you, Lila.
And you're
Yes.
such a good speaker, Lila. You could run this organization. So keep at it, okay?
Thank you.
I have a question. Hi. What is, I'd like a little bit more information, and you don't have to do it here, but just to maybe make it on the public on the website or whatever, sort of, what are the plans for expansion of this? Or what are the, I'm thinking about the possibilities in other schools and other communities and other districts.
Oh, yeah. So in order to, thank you for that question. For me, as being an education chair, in order to really utilize this education chair position properly, is really utilizing our RNOs. So we have RNOs, and obviously there's some parents in there that have children that are in the district, and making this a place where we were able to highlight what these students are doing in their neighborhood. So really just working all together. And if you would like to join the committee and have ideas, I am open to it. It takes a village. I couldn't do this without every single person that helped do this in the beginning. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I'll message you in the chat. I'm co-chair of the education committee for my RNO, and I'm an educator myself. So there's some things we're working on, and I just would like some more information, so we'll do that.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions before I move on to our next speaker? All right, next is Safe Snow Routes to School. And Bryan Wilson, who is a community member and lives in Congress Park. Bryan is a former high school math teacher and dean of students, now living in Congress Park neighborhood. Since moving to the neighborhood, he's noticed issues that have impacted access to school and bus stops in the community, which brought him media attention, as I already embarrassed him and told everyone to watch. But it's funny. So I am going to go ahead and pass the mic to you, Bryan.
Thank you very much. Can I have the ability to share my screen, please?
Can someone help with that? I'm not sure. I know how to.
I got it. Sweet.
Great.
Thank you. Can everybody see my Safe Snow Routes to School presentation?
Nope.
No, not yet.
Bummer. 1 second.
Not yet.
Yeah, I thought I clicked it. I must have missed. There we go. It says host disabled participant screen share.
Yeah, Keith, are you able to do that?
If not, I can share the link to the
Maggie.
presentation.
I just did it.
Okay.
It says you're a co-host, Bryan.
There we go. Now I can do it. Awesome. How's that look to everybody?
Now we see it. Looks good.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you. As Joanna introduced, my name's Bryan Wilson. I'm trying to just kind of motivate everybody into something. It doesn't need to be Safe Snow Routes to School. That's just sort of the name that I fell into personally. But I'm willing to change the name, open up suggestions. But the primary goal here is connecting the sidewalks. And what I mean by that is connecting one cleared sidewalk, say at a corner, to the next clear sidewalk at the next corner. So why I think this is needed is I want everybody to just kind of think of walking to your local elementary school, your middle school, your high school. You might need to be, you might need to do this after the meeting, but I want you to think of these questions. What route would you take? Why would you take that route? Is it the most direct? Is it the safest? And is that route accessible? So just for our presentation now, I want to focus on Denver East High School. These are a couple pics from bus stops immediately adjacent to Denver East High School. One is on the north side at 17th. The other is on the south side at East Colfax. Both of these are on routes that are eastbound. So students could take the 20 route on 17th or the 15 on East Colfax. But notice, both bus stops are covered in snow and ice. If we were to say walk to East Colfax, this is one particular intersection, East Colfax at Fillmore. One ramp is on the western side of that intersection. The other is on the eastern side, excuse me. Both are crossing Colfax north-south. And as you can see, both ramps are obstructed by snow and ice. Then there's the alley crossings. Some are worse than others, but long story short, what happens is water drainage backs up, freezes, and creates ice dams in the alleys, making the alley impassable, especially if you're in a wheelchair. So often when I talk to folks about this, they might say, well, don't we already have a Safe Routes to School program? Yes, we do. And there's a quick link to it there, denvergov.org/SRTS for Safe Routes to School. That's designed to create the infrastructure for the route. So that's installing sidewalks, ramps, etc., to help get the students from point A to point B. So just a couple of examples of what you might submit for Safe Routes to School. The left picture is on the opposite side of that East 17th Avenue bus stop at Denver East High School. But this is one that's actually potentially going to be getting taken care of pretty soon with that Rise Together Denver or the Denver Participatory Budgeting Program. This actually won in the East Central area. But then the other thought is, what about paved connections across parkways? This is East 7th Avenue on the way to Teller Elementary School. What about the Denver Snow Angels program? That's a wonderful program, it truly is, but it's designed to help people who are maybe physically unable to clear their own sidewalks. This helps them clear their sidewalk to ideally avoid getting cited by the city. So what we're asking at this time, and we're still working on the details, so if anybody wants to get involved with this, please contact me directly. We're hoping that RNOs connect with schools in their area. And as was previously mentioned, Joanna is willing to help you make those connections. We need to educate the community about routes to school once those routes are identified. So for instance, I'm very familiar with Congress Park. That's where I live. So Teller Elementary School is at the intersection of 12th and Garfield. So those two streets would be very good candidates for this I'm going to call it initiative, as opposed to say Denver East High School. Maybe that's Elizabeth Street. Maybe it's 16th Avenue or 16th along that bike route to get to Denver East High School if you're walking. And then once those routes are set up, we need to recruit volunteers, and we're asking that RNOs connect with those communities in any way that they feel comfortable, whether it's newsletters, social media, whatever it is you already do. And so just the logistics, we have a map that we're currently drafting. Right now, it's just all the schools on that map. I will link this map in the chat. RTD facilities are included, but they're not shown right away because it makes the map look a little busy. So the hope is that RNOs and schools will submit needs, whether by email or a Google form submission that we'll create. And then ideally RNOs are going to sort of mobilize, for lack of a better word, those volunteers. But if there's not an RNO in that community, or an RNO just maybe doesn't have the capacity to do it, or doesn't have anybody that is stepping up, at least at first, then that's something that I'm willing to shoulder, at least temporarily, so that every neighborhood in Denver can have something like this. Any questions?
Real quick, Brian, no question. I just want to thank you for your advocacy on this, and also helping it be safe for our students. I think about what Lila did walking around and getting these donations, and how having cleared sidewalks is going to help Operation Gabe this year. So I want to say thank you.
You're quite welcome. It's my pleasure. And I think I stopped sharing the screen. It did stop, right?
Looks like Adam has a question.
It did. Yeah, Brian, this is awesome. Have you spoken to the high school, East High School, about helping? It seems like that would be an easy access to find maybe funds and people to help with this for that specific area anyway.
Great question. I have not. As far as doing my own kind of shoveling volunteering, I personally focus on 12th, going to Teller Elementary School.
Okay.
Just because that's easier for me to walk out my door, grab a shovel, and start hoofing it. Ideally, we get volunteers that are maybe a block, at most 3, from a certain intersection, and then that's where they go help and just make it accessible for those who might need it. If students want to help, that's great, but I'm not suggesting that we get young kids out there breaking their backs with heavy snow. If they want to help a little, please, like, all volunteers are welcome. But the bigger issue is that obviously property owners are responsible for clearing their sidewalk. That's kind of how the city is set up. The gaps there are kind of in that we forget that it's not necessarily business owners that are responsible. It's the person or entity that owns the business property. But then in the lease, they often pass that off to the business. And the business, maybe they might not open on certain days of the week. I know my local bike shop isn't open on Mondays. So do they have to come in and clean on those days? I mean, we need it to happen, but it doesn't get done, unfortunately. And so I'm kind of wondering, what if business improvement districts can help be part of that solution? There's a bunch of different, like, little pieces, like the advertising agencies are supposed to clear those bus stop shelters that have advertising on them. I think they're called Main Street Media, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of bus stops that they didn't clear. But that's kind of the long and short of it. So anybody that
Amber, it looks like she has a question, and I only have a few more minutes until we have our next speaker. Amber, please ask your question.
Quick question, Brian. Is the first goal to distinguish what routes need to go, and then designate neighbors, and then look for the volunteers after you designate which streets need to get cleared first? Is that priority 1?
Yeah, I would say, well, priority 1, I mean, obviously is to get somebody to be lead for a neighborhood.
Okay.
That knows the neighborhood, because I would love to go into every neighborhood and say, oh, it's going to be these routes, but I'm not familiar with your neighborhood. So ideally it's somebody that knows the neighborhood, potentially walks the neighborhood, ideally, to to identify those routes, ideally in collaboration with the school, and then get the volunteers.
So you, I mean, ideally then an RNO should get somebody in the neighborhood to distinguish the routes, and then every RNO be responsible for finding the volunteers to get the routes cleared. Ideally, is that how you're thinking it'll work?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
how I'm thinking, but
Perfect.
open to direction.
No, I think that would be too much on your plate if you did it all. So, perfect. We'll get working in our little neighborhood. It's a great idea. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say that Nicholas recommended to include the CSC in this effort. And so I wanted to make sure the CSC is the Collaborative School Committees, and I think that's a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
Carol Hunter said, thank you, Bryan. This is valuable work for several reasons. I think it helps with neighbors becoming more humane and invested in each community and our students, another way of being connected to neighbors. So thank you for that comment, Carol. Also, as far as our children helping out, yes, it could be, but I wouldn't put all that. Really, we're the model to the children. So how are you being that model citizen and stepping up where they are learning? And that's like Montessori training over here. My kids were in Montessori. But really, like, if the city is not taking care of it, then as a neighborhood, as constituents, we're going to step up. That doesn't give the city the opportunity to slide away from the responsibilities, but we need our kids to go to school safe. We need to work together as a community. So thank you so much, Bryan. And any other questions, just put in the chat if you have him or directly. And now I am going to go on to the next part of our agenda. And I would like you all to get ready for an amazing speaker, Nicholas Martinez, who is the Executive Director for Transform Education Now. And he is somebody that really cares about parents' voices. I've over the years had the opportunity to work with him, and I'm excited to have him here this morning. So I will pass the mic to you, Nicholas.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for welcoming me here, giving me the opportunity to come and chat with you all. Thank you for the warm welcome, Joanna. My name is Nicholas Martinez. I'm the founder and executive director of Transform Education Now. We're a small nonprofit that works across the metro region in multiple school districts to ensure that families have access to transparent information around school-based outcomes, policy decisions being made at the school district and the state level, and grassroots community organizing to ensure that every single family, regardless of your zip code, has a voice in the decision-making process to ensure that their children are being served equitably and effectively by the public school systems. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Denver. I'm a product of the West Side. Grew up, lived in Alkmaar Park. I was also a teacher, a middle school teacher in the neighborhood. So I was able to teach the students who came from my community. And so that was a wonderfully rewarding and informative experience for me. I am a graduate of the University of Colorado at Boulder, where I learned how to do community organizing. I worked with underrepresented students. I worked with non-traditional students, so folks who are maybe a little bit older, student veterans, student parents, to ensure that they had access to a high quality university like CU Boulder, and that once they came onto campus, that they were also retained by the university. And that was kind of where I first got my organizing chops. As a teacher, I recognized that the system was not working for all of our students, and that particularly working class Black and Brown students were not getting a quality education that they so desperately deserve. And for me, and in my values, the only way to change a system is through working with people and working with the folks most affected. And that was a call to action for me to come back to community organizing and start to do this work around schools and school quality. Joanna, I shot you a PowerPoint, or if I'm able to, I can do, oh, looks like I can share my screen.
Co-host.
Right on. That's weird. It is not allowing me to do that. Give me one sec. Well, this isn't ideal. Sorry, folks.
No worries. I'm normally the one that is technologically not savvy, so I apologize. I wish I could assist you on that.
Is he a host? Co-host?
Yeah,
I
he's the
am a
co-host.
co-host.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
Nicholas.
says I have to
should be a
come back
co-host.
in and it says I have to come back in. I will be right back. Let's see if this works. Apologies.
Well, on the downtime, I hope everybody is enjoying this meeting so far. Again, thank you for being here. And up next is VPS. So after Nicholas gives us a little dive into what he's doing and some questions that parents had, then we will get on with DPS. So super excited to have them. All right, it looks like Nick, are you on?
I'm back. Let's see if this works. All right, that did work. Now let me find my correct screen. There we go.
Good.
Can folks see that presentation?
Way
Just
to
give me a
go.
thumbs up.
Yep.
Perfect. So like I said, my name is Nicholas. I'm the Executive Director of Transform Education Now. We were kind of grounded on the idea that we can, as a society, whenever and wherever we choose to, successfully teach children whose schooling is of interest to us. We already know more than we need to do this. We already got the basics. We already have that function. Whether we do so or not must finally depend on the fact that we haven't done it thus far. I think everybody here would agree that our society is not equitable, and that plays out in our education system. As Joanna mentioned, our work is really grounded in families and parents in particular. The idea that those most affected by challenges must be the ones leading that work, and that we must do this work from a place of compassion. We are talking about people's children. We are talking about the most precious thing in people's lives. And we believe that we must continue to add high quality seats, and that we must do what's best for children with a sense of urgency to transform our current system. As you can see, this is me. I actually don't have any I don't have any children myself, but I have nieces and nephews in the public school systems throughout multiple school districts here in Denver. And they are really the driving factor as to why I do this work. I have a partner who's not here today. Some of you probably know her from your times in the RNO community. Anita Banuelos is our Director of Community Organizing, born and raised, and works out of Southwest Denver, and has been deeply involved in community-based work for generations here in Denver. I want to take a moment and just ask you all to think about a question, and if you're willing to throw it in the chat, your answers into the chat for me today. I want to try to make this as engaging as possible. It is 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and so, maybe not everybody's had their coffee, but if you think about the last couple of years, whether you have children, grandchildren, nieces or nephews, or you're paying attention to what's happening, I wanted you to think about what is one success that you've seen your child, other people's children experience, and then what is one challenge that they continue to face today, and really let that be kind of the grounding that we kind of lead our discussion in today. So I'll give folks just a quick beat to go ahead and think about that, and if you're willing, please throw that in the chat for us. Oops. There we go. So if we think about the last couple of years here in Denver, these are some headlines that I pulled from Chalkbeat, right? These are just a quick search from 2020 to today. Things that shouldn't come as a surprise to any of us. Enrollment declines in kindergarten, students with high needs not receiving services and support. There are reports that still there are 30,000 kids that we cannot locate within our public school system. Many of those students have left due to gentrification. Many of those students have relocated, have chosen other educational opportunities. An impact on student mental health. That has been one of the key issues we have heard from families and communities throughout the pandemic and since 2020 has been the mental health and the well-being of students has not been great. That was both true during quarantines, that was true during remote learning, that was true during hybrid learning, and it continues to be a challenge that our schools and our teachers are facing every single day. None of us forget that when they just closed schools and schools was just not a thing anymore. And then most recently, the massive amount of data that we've seen that says that students are not okay academically, right? And there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of debate around the merits of standardized testing, of publicly reported academic data. And I would be the first person to tell you that that does not tell the whole story of a student, of a school or a community or a district, but it is a data point that tells us trends. It is something important to look at. It's like, you know, checking your car's oil. Is the system, is the engine running well? And what we've seen through multiple tools is our systems are not running well. Our students are not meeting grade level expectations. It means they're not gaining the skills that they need to be successful in the next step, whether that's third grade to fourth grade, sixth grade to seventh grade, eighth grade to high school to college and career. Things like being able to effectively decode words, things like being able to write multi-paragraph essays, being able to decode and kind of share problems in a story, basic math and arithmetic. Our students are academically struggling. And if you look, so let me back up actually. It's really hard to do this because I can't see y'all. It feels like I'm just talking to my computer screen. And so one thing I want you all to think about, and again, if you all are willing, to think about like, what is a great school? You know, what makes a school a great place for students? How do you know? What do you look for? Especially those of you who are parents. It is the school choice season here in Denver Public Schools. And so this might be on the forefront of many of your minds, and many of the things that you all are thinking about is, you know, if you have a transitioning student, what does that next step look for? And what are you worried about? What are you excited about? And how do you know that's going to be a great fit for your kid? And then one thing is, how can it be measured? How can it be shared? And how can we make sure that other folks are in the know? I think one of the goals of our organization is to demystify information. If you are a parent who is active in your CSE, if you are somebody who is an active member of your PTA, you might be walking the halls of your school every single day. If you're somebody with 3 jobs, you may be talking to your teacher a couple of times a year at parent-teacher conferences. And so how do we make sure that information is being shared amongst all community, and that we have, as community members, we have an eye on what's happening in our kids' schools and across the Denver public school system. So again, you know, as you all kind of think about that, please feel free to drop that in the chat. Would love to kind of see some of those responses. Obviously, I know we're on a timeline, so I'm going to try to continue to make my presentation quick so that we can answer any questions, things like that. So
no problem. May I just stop you really fast? So
yes.
Skills and passion. Carol Hunter said, skills and passion in reading are diminished. Mental health is a huge issue in various ways. Brain development is problematic for numerous students. That's from Carol. A success from Amanda was participation in a theater production in middle school, challenge bus access to middle school. Adam says challenges are math and dealing with adults. Also, Adam says great schools are led by great teachers and administrators who care about the kids and what they need. Big schools make this very difficult. So I just want to make sure that you heard the dialogue that's happening. So continue. You're doing a great job, Nicholas.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you all kind of sharing those perspectives. And please keep them coming. That's something that we want to make sure that we are capturing and learning and continuing discussion around. If you look at the most recent CMAS data, so the Colorado Measures of Academic Success, the standardized test that Colorado uses to measure students' progress against its state standards for each grade level, what we saw is kind of 2 systems. We saw students who are affluent, generally white, performing at best average. And we saw students who are students of color, students who are living in poverty and receiving free and reduced lunch, performing significantly below their peers, and significantly, and more importantly, below grade level expectations, meaning that many of our students won't be prepared for what happens next in the next step of their educational career. For us, that's a significant problem. A healthy system is one that inspires all kids to do the things that you all shared. Participating in band and plays provides opportunity for extracurriculars, for leadership development, just like the Kids Can nominee today, right? Being able to get out there and be a leader, but also prepares our students to be successful in and outside of the classroom from a skills perspective. I often talk about families and share with families, you know, it's not an either or. It's not a school. A great school is not one that honors your student's identity, is a great place to learn, and your student enjoys being it, or a school that provides high quality academic and rigorous learning opportunities, it's a school that provides both of them. A place where students are excited every single day to get up. I as a teacher, I would see students, smiling and running from their parents' cars, just being excited to be at school. And it's a place that we are going to challenge our students to rise to high expectations because we know that they can meet them. Every single student has brilliance in it. It's a school's responsibility and a school system's responsibility to give those students the opportunity to be able to achieve their full potential. If you look, so one thing we've also seen from the NAEP assessment, which is also often kind of called the nation's report card, is one of the most respected, well-researched tools that we have as policy experts, as community, to understand the health and wellness of a system. What we've seen is massive declines in the performance in reading and math. And that's across all subgroups, that's across multiple grade levels, and it's very, very troubling, right? We know that COVID had a massive impact on the academic well-being of students across the country, and particularly in Colorado. Like I mentioned, I'm a Denver and a Colorado native. This place is too amazing to have a mediocre school system. This place is too great of a city and too great of a state. We have too much going for us to be the middle of the pack. We have an opportunity as a city and a state to really ensure that we have a world-class education system that matches our world-class city. What we've seen is less than 40% of students are meeting grade level expectations, and less than in math, in reading and writing, and less than 30% of them in math. That's a problem. And again, following similar trends that many of us would expect that we've seen from CMAS data is students of color and students experiencing poverty are bearing the weight of that. There was an outsized impact of the COVID response. During COVID, my team did a number of surveys, a ton of outreach to families across the metro region. What we saw was working class families spent significantly less dollars to be able to support their student, not because they cared less, not because they wanted to spend less, but because of the financial constraints on their lives forced them to. We saw families who had from privilege who were spending thousands of dollars a month on private tutoring, on experiential learning opportunities through private programs outside of schools to supplement what their students either were or weren't getting during remote learning. And what we are seeing today is the impact of some of those decisions and some of the inequities within our public school systems. So as you can see, the purple line is Colorado. The blue line, the dotted blue line is kind of our nation. And then the orange line is particularly Denver. We are lucky enough that NAEP chose Denver Public Schools as one of its districts that it was going to do longitudinal data on. And so what we see is everything is trending in the wrong direction. And in particularly in Colorado and in Denver, we are trending in the wrong direction at a much faster rate than in other places, which is not shocking to many of us, but it is extremely concerning. What we look about when we start to disaggregate some of our state level data for Denver Public Schools for students of color, you can see just a drastic difference between white students and students of color in all areas in meeting grade level expectations in both English language arts, so reading and writing in grades 3 through 8, as well as in math. Couple quick notes, because of the pandemic, this was the first year we've had kind of like a large data set. And so we actually weren't able to kind of calculate growth. As a former educator, I also know that growth is extremely important when we are looking at the trajectory of a student. It's not just how much you know, it's at what growth rate are you learning and are gathering some of the skills you're going to need to be successful. Similar with students with IEPs, if you are a student with learning challenges, an exceptional learner, the last couple of years have had an outsized impact on your trajectory. And then again, as well as students experiencing poverty who qualify for free and reduced lunch. Our organization works with families and we work with communities to ensure that their voices are at decision-making table. What we've heard from families over the last couple of years is a couple of recommendations for both the district and the state that I want to share with you all. Denver Public Schools in particular got over $200 million in ESSA COVID relief spending, or COVID relief dollars, and the state got around $2.1 billion. And so our recommendation is to use those dollars effectively and make sure that they get into the hands of families and community through things like expanded tutoring, direct aid so that families can access things like mental health supports long-term so that they can participate in academic catch-up programs, that they can do maybe some of the sports program. There are suburban school districts whose middle schools don't have sports programs because we can't afford them. And so those families lose out on that opportunity. We ran a pilot program to provide micro grants to families, and what we saw was a drastic impact in the mental health, well-being, and academic performance of students who participated in some of that. And then I think the most impactful and potentially helpful is creating a regional task force here in Denver Public Schools to work alongside educators, to work alongside school leaders and parents to come up with targeted solutions to spend those additional ESSA dollars as we are running up against that, what we're calling like kind of financial cliff. There is a deadline to spend federal dollars and we have a chunk of them left. Really use that as an opportunity to co-create solutions with those most affected so that we can actually address real challenges being faced by students and communities. And then the last thing I'm gonna leave you with is kind of 2 opportunities to engage with our team. As I mentioned, it is school choice season. And so we offer a free school choice counseling program that helps families walk through school choice. I believe school choice is a powerful determinant for self-determination, is a powerful tool for self-determination. It is also very complicated. It is also not the easiest thing, and there's a lot of information. Our team is willing to set up one-on-one group meetings. We do a ton of events, both in person and Zoom, to help families understand their options, to answer questions. And we break out laptops and it's like, hey, if you don't have access to a computer and your local library is closed, come sit with us and we'll just help you kind of walk through that process. That window is open until January 13th at 4:30 p.m. We opened yesterday until January 13th. So it's important that families and community have that information. And the second is we run what's called a parent power workshop. They're monthly parent-centered workshops held both on Zoom and then we too are having the conversation about moving back to full in-person meetings. But it's an opportunity to come and learn about key and critical education and community-based issues, and then to just have conversation, dialogue, and be in community with other families and community members. There's a couple of flyers, things like that. I'm gonna leave that with Joanna, and so if you all have questions, you can follow up with her. I will also put my contact information in the chat. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can all have a reasonable conversation here. Happy to answer questions. Happy to kind of clarify anything. I know that was a lot of information and it was very, very quick. So
oh, thank you so much. It was really good. I appreciate that. I'm just going to read some of before I get to the questions, just go to the chat. So Lamone had mentioned, I'm concerned about the lack of social skill development in children, including art, sports, and music that bring kids together. Dina had said, we pay our teachers some of the lowest wages in the country. It is hard to attract, I'm so sorry, it's hard to attract teachers in Colorado given low wages, high stress, and fear of violent events, given our gun laws. We need to pass legislation to pay our teachers a competitive living wage. Drew said, thank you so much for your work, Nicholas. This is so important. What are the causes? What are excuse me. Thank you for interacting on this chat. What are the causes of these disparities and poor results? Lack of resources? If so, does more money help? Lack of qualified teachers? How can we address these issues, which are so important for our future? And that was actually a question versus a comment, so I'll let you answer that question.
Thank you all so much.
Or if you want to reach out to him directly, it looks like I have a lot of questions coming in now, but yeah, pick one of them since you had a few.
Thank you all so much for that engagement. I really do appreciate it. And then I do want to call out Liz Mendez from DPS. Thank you for the correction. I get my dates confused. School choice does close on February 14th at 4 p.m. That is the hard deadline to keep in mind. I think I said the 13th, so it's the 14th. Drew, your question around what causes these disparities and poor results, I think you can't narrow it down to one thing, right? Like there's going to be no silver bullet that addresses some of these challenges. I think funding is a huge piece of this, right? Everybody on here, anybody who's paid attention over the last 20 years knows that our public school systems are inadequately funded. As a result, we don't pay teachers what they're worth. As a result, our classrooms are not resourced at the levels that they should be. You know, we have mental health providers that are sitting at ratios of like 500 to 1, right? More money absolutely would help, but it is not simply just like, let's throw money at the wall. Let's do it in a way that is making targeted and data-driven investments. Things like making sure that our best teachers are being incentivized to teach at our highest need schools. The places where we see the greatest impact of external forces. Let's put our most qualified, our most effective folks there, and let's pay them like the professionals that they are, right? I think there's a number of ways to address some of this. Really at the forefront, putting equity in every single decision. That is something I know the district has been working towards, but it's things like, how do we make sure that they see that play out in funding conversations, in what groups of students and communities have access to what schools and in what priority, right? There's definitely ways to do this. There's definitely ways to make sure that we have additional wraparound services, and all of that can be taken care of at a district level. Yeah, thank you all. I really appreciate this.
Yes. Question, Lamone, what would be an appropriate wage for public school teachers?
As much as possible. Those people, those folks deserve as much money as we can afford to give them. As a former teacher, I was like, this is insane that we are asking our educators to live off these types of salaries. And at the same time, you know, we got to make sure that the most effective folks have an opportunity to stay in the classroom. One of the great tragedies of the public education system is you either have to decide, do I make a better wage and have upward trajectory in my career, or do I stay in the classroom where my heart and my soul is and where I could be most effective? Unfortunately, those are the decisions we make. So many of our educators choose. I see Drew had his hand up.
Oh, I didn't, Nicholas, thank you so much. And you already tried to answer one question, but it seems like a lot of the problems are structural or systemic, you know, and larger beyond just the schools, and it's the way the values of our society. And but there's one thing that I try to understand, which maybe opens a whole big can of worms, but it's a sort of public schools and charter schools and private schools and DPS probably. I'm glad DPS is here, but I seem to think that we're starting as a society to privatize everything, our public assets, and we're doing that with schools, which really, you know, like in capitalism, some people get great benefits, but some people are really harmed and left at the bottom. And I just wondered, this is a hard question probably, but is it the fact we've de-emphasized and even hollowed out our public school system and tried to privatize, and what is the role of charter schools in relation to public schools in this? And maybe DPS should probably also try to answer that, but do you have any thoughts on those relationships?
I do. And I will preface this by saying that I often have a unique and maybe unpopular opinion when it comes to the charter school, traditional school debate. I think charter schools are a valuable tool for community control and for community autonomy over our school systems. I believe that charter schools add an additional, when done correctly and when done effectively in partnerships with the communities that they serve, that they offer an additional level of community oversight in addition to the elected Board of Representatives. So the way that a charter school works is they hold a contract with Denver Public Schools to meet certain agreements, to meet certain outcomes for their school performance. If that's not going well, that charter school board has both the ability and the responsibility to act, to take action, to address maybe deficiencies, to maybe pivot, to maybe make key structural decisions that the traditional school systems can make, but often takes time. It's like moving turning around a cruise ship versus turning around a speedboat, right? The autonomy allows for community-based decision-making in a time frame that potentially could be more effective for kiddos. I think that's in the ideal situation. In a lot of places, I would say that, that's not how things are always run, but we can always continue to improve. So I actually believe that charter schools can play a key role in the improvement of the school systems. I also believe that once we see high quality learning in every single school, regardless of governance type, that then we will see families truly being able to utilize school choice in an effective manner. Right now, families are making decisions based on, like, is my kid going to be safe? Is my kid going to learn basic skills, right? That's not school choice. In an ideal world, every single school is a school that you can trust to meet the needs and to love your kids, right? And you would be making a decision on, let me finish. And you would be making a decision on what's best for your kids' learning and what their passions are. As if my kid is interested in the science, right? They would have the opportunity to go to a school that emphasizes project-based learning, space exploration, things like that. Whereas if my kid is musically inclined, we could then find a school and program that is based in the arts, right? And really fosters that student's agency to find what they are passionate about. That's not how we're doing things right now. We are asking families to find basic quality, which is not, in my opinion, effective school choice. We need an entire overhaul to improve every single seat in this district.
All right, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Sorry about that. Just a quick mention, Jane Potts says, wonderful information. Now to take action. How could we help? So if you could, make that direct connection. Liz Mendez, DPS said, DPS charter schools are public schools, not private schools, and they are held to the same standards as our district managed schools because they are authorized by DPS. In some ways, they are held to higher standards than district managed schools. So I think this is a good segue into, if you want to connect with Nicholas, he has his information in the chat. And I am happy to announce our next speaker. If there are no more questions or anything else, we have to keep going. It is 10:37 now. Liz Mendez with Denver. Well, let me finish up. Nicholas, thank you so much for coming and speaking and educating us. Thank you. I appreciate it. Denver Public Schools redistricting. This is the subject. If you have questions regarding charters or anything else, I would maybe Liz could, well, she wouldn't answer them. She could direct you to the person that would be. But thank you so much for that. So redistricting. Why is redistricting happening? What does it mean? This, again, is a safe place for parents and for DPS to let us know what's happening. So I will hand the mic over to you, Liz. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you. I also want to thank Nicholas. I appreciate you helping us get the word out about school choice and all the ways you're doing that. And also, I really I like your view on charter schools. I think that's not always held in our partner advocacy community. So thanks for really just leveling kind of the views out there on charter schools as well. And Joanna, thank you for having us here today. I do have a short deck to share. I know that seems to be a little bit difficult. Is that possible for me to present my screen, share my screen?
I've given you share.
You've given me share? Okay, so I should be able to do it. Let me, oh yeah, there we go. All right. Okay, so there's lots of things that we could talk about, but I am here today to talk about the Board of Education redistricting process. So thank you for having us here. We're really trying to get the word out and word out about this process and how people can give us feedback. And let me introduce myself a little better. I am the Executive Director of Enrollment and Campus Planning, and this is one of the things that we work on is our board districts, anything that has to do with maps and boundaries and things like that. So as most of you probably know, but let's just make sure we're all starting from the same level playing field here, that Denver Public Schools is overseen by a Board of Education made up of 7 members or directors. Excuse me. 5 of these board members represent specific regions of the city, and you can see those here. And those five, in those 5 regions, the board members are elected by folks who live in those regions. We have 2 board members that are at-large directors, and those 2 members are elected by voters across the city. These current districts that you see here in this map have been in place since 2014. So let's talk about redistricting. So we are only talking about the board member districts here. Sometimes people get confused and think we're talking about boundaries for schools. So that isn't what we're talking about. Redistricting is a process that many legislative bodies have to go through after each federal census. And we are one of those. So what we have to do is balance our 5 districts so that the total population in each of these 5 districts is as close to equal as possible. This is especially important so that each board member can represent about the same total number of people so that the individual's voices, regardless of where they live, can be equally heard. This is really important now because, as we all know, Denver has changed a lot. And we currently, in the last 10 years in particular, in some regions, our population has grown significantly. In others, it has begun to shrink. Currently, for example, District 4, which you can see here, has almost 34,000 more people to represent than the director from District 2. So, so what this process mandates that we balance our districts after each census so that that doesn't continue to grow. So we can get our districts a little bit more balanced by moving the lines, the borders a bit to change which areas are in which district slightly. This is our timeline. We will have about 5 weeks from mid-January to mid-February where we will be seeking community feedback. In the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can get that feedback. And then in March, we will be presenting a single option to the board, single option for how we will change the board district boundaries to the board in March. We'll have a public comment session during March as well, and then the board will vote on these changes. And then in April, the new districts will be in place, which allows candidates who want to run for the open Board of Education seats to be qualified by the election division. And then in November, there will be an election and these new board districts will apply. So we talked about how you can provide feedback. We would love your help encouraging your communities, your RNOs, to provide input into our redistricting process. We have a PDF of this deck, and Matt can drop it in the chat. Matt is here with me from DPS. So on that website, you can see there's a lot of information. There's FAQs. There's 4 maps that are options for scenarios that are options that people can take a look at. And then there's a feedback form that we're hoping folks will use to give us feedback on which of the options they like, or maybe they like none of them and they want to give us a different suggestion. That QR code takes you to the website. In addition, so that's for individuals. So you can let your folks in your RNO know that this information is available, and we really are trying to get feedback from as many people as we can. If you are holding a meeting coming up and your RNO will already be together, the link by the checklist there is a toolkit that has been created to give you all the materials you need to bring this topic to your meeting. So there is a slideshow voiceover video that we've created that walks through the redistricting process, the legal requirements, the different maps that we've created for options. And then people in your communities could use the feedback form to give us their feedback after they watch that video. And then finally, at the bottom there, it says that we will be having a couple of district-wide community meetings and regional community meetings, and those should be announced on the redistricting page on our website next week. And once we get those announced, we will be letting RNOs in the areas that we're holding those meetings know when those are happening. that is a very brief and quick overview of the redistricting process. I'd love to take any questions anybody has at this point. And let's see,
Amanda
I haven't
asked
been
if
able
you
to
could
look at the chat.
please share the link.
It is in there. The DPS presentation link looks like it was shared in the chat.
Oh, wonderful. I did want to, I didn't mention Adrian said the educational outcomes in public schools in general are sufficiently bad that any responsible parent has to seriously consider alternatives. These standards are against grade level. So we should have 100% of students meeting them regardless of who they are, how old they are, and where they come from. One way to get 100% meeting grade level is to commit to the process where you don't get to move up to the next level until you at least meet the grade level you were in. That's old school, but it worked in the past. I know that doesn't have to do with redistricting, but because it is DPS, I just wanted to point out that, yeah, we don't have to reinvent a wheel if something worked in the past, right? And so, yeah, thank you. Drew.
Yeah, what I'm trying to understand, because I just hear from a lot of parents in our community is why, and I'm probably opening another can of worms, but why is the DPS board so dysfunctional? I mean, I don't think it's redistricting really, is it? I mean, maybe that's going off on a tangent that people don't want to go off on, but it seems like, I don't know, is that part of the problem here? And anyway, if you want to take a stab at that, if you don't, I understand.
You know, what the redistricting will impact is who's able to run based on where folks' addresses are. You have to live in the district that you want to represent. So what if we move the lines that divide the district slightly and change where different neighborhoods fall in the districts, it will change who can run for those districts. It will also change the out of balance situation we're in right now, where District 4 representative has so many more people and schools that they have to represent, and they have to, learn all of the issues and understand such a wide range of topics that are happening in District 4 because it's so geographically big and population big. And what we have to do is take some population from District 4 and add some population to District 2. That's where the out of balance situation currently is. And so moving the lines to change where different neighborhoods fall so that District 4 has less and District 2 has more is the goal of this process. And by doing so, hopefully it will allow the board members to better represent their communities because they have a more balanced communities. As far as the rest of your question, I don't think redistricting really impacts that directly. There's probably a number of ways that it would impact it indirectly, but not directly.
Okay, I'll just accept that, I guess. Difficult question, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Drew, for that question. I think that's more of a board question, and you allowed the idea about transparency and accountability in the November meeting. That's exactly what we need to do with the school board. So in that, it's coming up. They're going to be, elections for them, vetting these candidates. I would highly suggest don't ask the why, but how they are going to implement certain things, and really thinking about, is this person that now has these new boundary lines that they're going to cover going to represent the will of the people and the parents? And so, yeah, I would save that. It's a great question, but I would save it for probably school board. Yeah, and thank you for answering that, Liz. It looks like Amber has a question.
Is redistricting based only on the census? Because I know that I know there's a lot of people that don't even fill out the census. So is that the only way that lines are redrawn, is based on the census results?
Yes, yeah. That's how legislative bodies across the country operate. And it's really our only source of total population data that is, as reliable as we can get it. But yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. As we know, not everybody fills out those census. So you're, yeah. Judy, you have a question.
Yeah, hi. Although I will say, as a demographer, as someone who's trained as a demographer, it is the best count we've got. It has its problems, but it is an incredibly robust process, and really does reflect what's going on and takes into account where there's under enumerations and different kinds of things. Well, actually, related to that, is it the total population that's considered versus the population of school-age children at the time? I was curious as to which population, for the purposes of a redistricting, related to schools, how that was used. That's one question. The other is it looks like on the map, Liz, that you're really trying to rebalance between 4 and 2, and that the other districts aren't applied. I might have missed the rationale about that. Anyway, those are my sort of 2 questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Good questions. It is total population, not just school age population or not just voting population, but total population, because the representatives are elected by the total population, and they represent the total population, regardless of whether you have children or do not have children in your household. You still should be represented by that board member. Second question, the other districts, districts 1, 3, and 4, are closer to the exactly equal number that we need them to be. District 4 and District 2 are out of balance, but they don't touch each other. They're not right next to each other. They're not adjacent. And so we can't just shift the line to give some of District 4 to District 2. So there will be impacts to some of the other districts because we have to kind of shift, right? We have to shift a little population out of 4 into one of the neighboring districts, and then out of one of the neighboring districts into District 2. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And just while I have your ear and my mic is on, has the number of schools, the actual school facilities, changed in proportion to that population shift that's occurred since 14 and 2000? So I'm just wondering, in terms of what's being managed in those districts, have you seen commensurate investment in that area from the city?
That's a good question. So we are looking at the total number of schools in each district as we look at the options, because a board member having the ability to best well represent 70 plus schools versus more like 30 schools is, it's a really different situation, right? It's asking a lot of a board member to get to know 70 plus schools versus 30 schools. So it's a metric we're looking at as we try to balance it. In the far Northeast, we have added schools since during the 10 years of the last census, for sure. Is it exactly proportional to the population change? Probably not exactly proportional, because in some cases we had under-enrolled schools when we started in 2010, and those filled up. And in other cases, we had growth in areas where we didn't have a school, and so we built additional schools.
Thank you so much for that. Lamont had a question in the text. Is there a list of schools in each district? And I think that's very important. Speaking of schools, and we have about 5 minutes left before this meeting is adjourned. If it doesn't go by the school numbers, then let's think about the pressure that we would be putting on these board members if they're just going by the census population count. So really being what we in diversity and inclusion equitable, or the equity, like how are we exactly making sure that somebody doesn't have more play on their own, maybe a few more, but not 40 more schools. So District 2, or in District, so she would need what, 19,000 more children in order to help funding in her district, and District 5, where I am at, my children, one of the schools that would be affected would be North High School. And you know that North High School in our community and who we vote, it's huge. The councilwoman who, Councilwoman Amanda Sandoval, graduated from North High School. And so if we are redistricting, and this is somebody who comes in with pride saying, you know, she is a Viking, and then it is taken away. I mean, let's really think about, is that community? Is that really allowing that community or that person to represent where they grew up, if somebody does run? Considering, you know, Drew had mentioned all the bickering and all, just how the board is not really getting along. Like, come on, kids, everyone go to your corners. It's time to get together and work to help our students, like really thinking about that. And I speak so candid because this is the only way that we're going to make real changes, is by speaking our genuine truth and figuring out what is going to best help our students. So I really encourage everyone out there, call to action. DPS is here to listen and to work with us. I always say that people have the power. And so if you have questions, if we could get a list of all of these schools that would be affected, then we could, as the RNOs, go out to their schools. If they're in our neighborhood, talk to them and let them know this is what that looks like, and really wanting to help the community. So I say this with all due respect, like in working together, but just thinking outside the box and thinking what we can do to work together, just like Bryan is doing. What can we work together to have that sidewalk open so our kids can make it to school? Now let's work together with DPS. What can we do as we are redistricting and not putting so much pressure on this one board member because they have more schools? Because, as Amber said, does it go by the census? Well, if it's just the population in that community, what about the school? So definitely something to talk about. It sounds like we only have 5 weeks to do this. So everyone get on it. We need to hear your voice. Your voice matters, and it matters here with Denver Inc. I'm so just honored to be here. End with our opening with anybody else, any questions? This is the opportunity. We have a few minutes left. I'm just so grateful to be here today. Is there any questions from the audience?
Yeah, Joanna, this is Drew again. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the presenters. This is, I think, such an important discussion. It probably begs a lot more questions. And it's something that I think maybe in Inc. we don't pay that much attention to, but we really should. And I think, Joanna, you and I talked about how, you know, the children are the future. And if we're not taking care of them and not preparing them, we're going to have a society at some point that may not be the way most of us might wish it to be. Keith, did you have Keith? Yeah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to thank Joanna for organizing such a great meeting and all of the presenters that came and presented today. I also want to see if Judy wouldn't mind doing a little preview of our meeting next month, again, just so everybody knows. And we do have a sign up link. I'm going to post it in the chat right now for the meeting for next month. It's also on our website, and we'll get an email out to folks as well about it coming up. But take it away, Judy.
Yes, thanks, Keith, for remembering that. We talked about it and I completely spaced it. So our first back in person, but it will be hybrid meeting. Be patient with us while we make sure how we learn how we can do hybrid meetings well with our new technology. And the kickoff here, it will be at the Molkery, which is in Montclair Park, and Historic Montclair is happy to be a sponsor, a supporter of doing this meeting and getting it back in the hoods. And one of the things that certainly affects our RNO is about working with city and county of Denver when you're using Denver parks and Denver facilities. There's now a new layer of permitting and checking and making sure that you've got your act together, if you will, when you're using Denver city property, which means that we're working with the Office of Special Events that really sort of revamped itself during the pandemic. For those of you who may have worked with some of it, with the Office of Special Events, also known as OSE, and it also intersects with working with the Parks Department, which we're probably more used to. So the Office of Special Events has up their game. They're organized, but there's a lot more requirements. And to make this kind of more transparent and easier, getting us informed as RNOs so that we can have our 4th of July picnics and it's not crazy. A lot of work for those of us trying to put them on, and that we know what to expect and we know how to work with them. So that Office of Special Events is going to come and tell us what it takes to do events in city owned facilities, and especially the parks. And sorry.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'll let you finish your last sentence.
Oh no,
I'm doing
that's
that
all
all
right.
morning. I need more caffeine, Adam. I wish it was in person.
No worries, Joanna. So Office of Special Events will be there to help us walk through that process. I hope to get a couple of us RNOs who have worked with them over these last couple of years to be able to speak to our challenges as well as our successes in working with Office of Special Events. And I'm hoping, though I haven't lined it up, the Viva La Streets, Joel can help me out. But anyway, I'm going to be working with Jill LaContore to look about this new exciting option of closing out the streets and bringing us up to date on what that is for the fun summer, being very European kind of thing. Anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. So those are the two main agenda items.
Thank you so much. Last question, David J., please ask.
I think, Judy, let's make sure we have the location of the Mockery also for the February meeting, because this is an in-person meeting, so there's space there, and you're welcome to show up in person, but it will also
it'll be a hybrid, so you can show up in person.
hybrid.
We'd love to see you. We'll also have a link, and you can show up online too, and we'd love to see you there. We will have an election preview as well coming up, I believe, in March, and we're still working on a location for that. I believe Swick might be the location, and Jane Potts is working on that. So we've got a lot planned in store for the next couple of months. Jane,
that is secured for March.
Great, perfect.
The Southwest Improvement Council at 1000 South Lowell.
Great, and that will be an election preview, and we'll have more information about that coming up shortly too. So
awesome. Thank you guys for letting it go over a little over time. We're not going to give attention to negativity. That's why we're not going to go there, but someone needs to be put in a corner. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for just being honest and talking about redistricting. I'm again honored to be the education committee chair and can't do it without people that want to be involved and volunteer. So my call to action is we're welcome to have you here. Let's work together. That's the only way that we can make our community better, is to have us working together. Thank you so much. And Drew, as our president, I will let you adjourn this meeting.
Yeah, hi everybody. Is there any final comments anyone has that before anything else, or before we part today?
I think we should wrap it up, Drew. We're over time.
Yeah, we are. We often do. Okay, we'll adjourn this meeting, and we welcome you to the February meeting at the Mockery in Montclair. otherwise on Zoom. So thanks so much for attending today, and thanks for being part of this discussion.
Thank you so much, everyone. I will have, because I was unable to show the video, I will make sure that it's posted of what happened in Operation Gabe. Look forward to highlighting those students. Yeah, if you have a chance, check it out when we upload it. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Saturday, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to our guests. Thank you.
Bye. Yes, thanks. Great program. Thank you, everyone.